Hello, this is Tracy Bevington. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and the owner of a group private practice called Pacific Marriage and Family Therapy Network. I'm here today to discuss what makes a successful long-term relationship. And this is going to be part one, and we're going to be discussing trust. If you're joining us today for the first time, please let me know where you're joining us from and put that in the comment box along with your name and where you're joining us from. Also, if you have any comments or questions that you'd like me to address, please leave that in the comment area as well. If you're interested in joining our newsletter, we have links at the top of the page. You can join our newsletter. You can also contact us through links at the top of the page. If you're joining us for the very first time, I just also like to remind you to check your volume, make sure that your sound is turned on and that your volume's turned on so that you can hear what's going on. I believe it defaults sometimes to having like closed captions. All right. What makes or what does it take to be in a long-term relationship? I believe that based on my experience working with hundreds of different couples, one of the most important things in having a long-term and successful relationship is to have trust. Sometimes people think, well, of course I trust my partner. He's not going to cheat on me, or she's not going to cheat on me. That would never happen. And that's 100% probably true. But that's not the only thing that you need to trust your partner about. Trust is a very complicated concept, and it's based on being vulnerable. If you fully trust someone, you can be open, vulnerable, and in a really, let's say, weak position and still feel safe. That is what real trust is. It's being in a very high-risk position emotionally and not being afraid. So when we're in a successful relationship, we want there to be a lot of trust. Does every relationship have 100% trust? Not that I know of. There needs to be, or it's best to have, high levels of trust, but you're never really going to get to a position where you're 100% trusting of the other person. It's just too dangerous, and nobody's perfect, so we can't always 100% of the time be trusting or be trustworthy. It's just not human nature. But we can always try our best. So when we're talking about trust, we're thinking of what are you doing and not necessarily what you're saying. I hear this a lot in couple sessions where one partner will say, well, he said or she said she was going to stop doing that thing. She was going to stop yelling at me for leaving the bathroom light on. And then a time comes and she can't help herself and she yells at him for leaving the bathroom light on. So although that seems really silly, that's a breach of trust. And when there's a breach of trust, sometimes it piles up on each other. When breach of trust piles up on each other, it becomes a bigger issue. And that's what leads to conflict. That's what leads to many people feeling unsupportive, unsafe, or just not comfortable in their relationship. So let's talk about how you can either build or maintain trust. Whenever clients come into my office, it's very common to be in a situation where they want to repair or rebuild trust, or they're just trying to decide, if they're very early in their relationship, how to build trust. So here are some things that you can consider in being a trustworthy partner and also what to expect or what to look out for in a trustworthy partner that you want to be with. So, number one, I like to think about respect. Respect is huge. If you are not respecting your partner, and if your partner is not respecting you, there is no way that you're going to be able to get to that very vulnerable place and feel safe. Respect is incredibly important. Now, respect doesn't necessarily mean that you just do whatever the other person says or agree. You can always disagree in a very respectful way. If you're not respectful, that's going to wear down on trust big time. So the number one thing to be mindful of for yourself and look out for in other people is, do they respect you? Next, keeping promises. So that goes along with, don't make promises that you don't intend to keep. And when you make a promise, you really do need to keep it. So in my previous example, when I said, oh, the wife was yelling at the husband for leaving the bathroom light on, and she said she would stop, but she couldn't help herself. Well, that could be a situation where the wife needed to decide, you know what, actually, I think this is going to be harder than it may seem. And I don't know if I can stop myself from yelling at him from turning up for leaving on the light in the bathroom. And it might also be a case where, so she shouldn't have made the promise. And it also may be a case that she forgot that she made the promise. So promises are a big deal. Don't make them lightly. If you cannot promise something, don't promise it, because it just erodes trust and it makes things much more challenging in a relationship. Another thing to consider is secrets. To have a trust-filled relationship, or to have a successful relationship filled with trust, keeping secrets is probably not a good idea. Because if you have a secret, it's really hard to keep it, because you're going to be seeing your partner or this person in your life many, many hours a day, every single day, every year, day after day, week after week, month after month. So keeping a secret really erodes something inside of you as the person keeping the secret. The other thing is, many times, no matter how hard we work, our secrets get found out. And that creates a huge rift in a relationship. Trust is devastated when there's a secret kept and then found out later. So do your best. Try not to keep secrets. This is also going back into being respectful. If you're respectful, you won't need to keep secrets, because you'd be able to communicate in an appropriate way and not have to worry about admitting to something that you may have done that was not so good. Again, we are all human. We all make mistakes. We all have moments where we don't make the best choice. The best thing to do in a trusting, loving, and successful relationship is to own up to our mistakes, talk it through, and not keep it a secret. When you communicate, calm and clear is the key. Trusting and successful relationships are two people communicating openly and clearly. Again, no secrets, no empty promises, no yelling, no screaming. You're just talking. And you can talk in a heated manner and still be respectful and still make your points without being mean or nasty. It takes work, believe me. But that's what a really solid and successful relationship is built on. The trust that you can open up to each other, say things that are hard and still be okay together. This kind of leads to my next point, which is being able to disagree in an appropriate manner. No relationship is ever going to be full of 100% agreement. It's just not realistic. So be prepared to be in a successful and long-term relationship. You're going to have some disagreements. Again, it goes back to the respect. If you can respectfully disagree and talk something out, negotiate, try to figure out if there's some kind of a middle ground, that's building trust. That's being able to talk about hard things and not be afraid. So disagree appropriately. I also like to think of that as do not cause harm. The last thing that I'd like to talk about in having a successful long-term relationship based on trust is don't take things personally. When you trust that someone has your best interest in heart and what they're saying isn't coming out quite in that way, let's trust that their intentions are good. They may not be saying it right, they may not have done the right thing, but if you can trust that their intention is good, it makes it a lot easier to not take something personally. When we start to take things personally, that will automatically fire up into a huge argument, because then it turns into he said, she said this, he said that, no, I meant this, and and it gets really ugly. So trust deteriorates quickly when we take things personally. Again, not easy to do. I think that building trust or having trust in a relationship sounds easy. It's like, of course I trust him, of course I trust her. But it's really not that easy. It takes a lot of work on your end to be in a nice, trusting relationship. And it takes a lot of work on the other person's end to be in that relationship, because it's dangerous. Being vulnerable is dangerous. You can get really hurt. So trusting that the other person has your best interest in mind and that they want to try to work with you to resolve whatever thing is happening, it's going to make the happy times even better, because you don't have to worry. So I guess you can say medicine number one for being in a happy and successful long-term relationship is to get some trust. Get the trust, keep the trust, build the trust, make trust happen, because it doesn't just happen on its own. So for today's Facebook Live presentation, we discussed what it takes to be in a long-term relationship, a successful long-term relationship. Part one was focused on trust. We discussed keeping promises, not keeping secrets, communicating openly and clearly, disagreeing in an appropriate manner, not taking things personally, and we talked a lot about respect. So I hope that focusing on these things is going to help you really develop the relationship you have now, or help you to find the relationship that you've always wanted. Thank you for joining me today. Once again, I'm Tracy Bevington. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and owner and founder of Pacific Marriage and Family Therapy Network. We have 3 locations, Sherman Oaks, Santa Monica, and Manhattan Beach, and we have 15 therapists available to help you develop and build trust in relationships and understanding what trust means to you. Please join us every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific, where we'll be discussing additional topics of interest. If you have a topic of interest that you'd like me to address, please leave that in the comment section. I'm happy to address whatever issues or items that you come up with. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Bye-bye.